Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live after our unexpected week-long break last week. We're excited to be back here with you. We're going to be doing some hobby streams. As was mentioned on the social media feeds, right now, just out of concern and safety for everyone's health and well-being in the office and everything going on in our area with COVID, we're not going to be doing gameplay streams for a little while longer, but we are going to be getting back to our hobby streams. So you can always tune in Tuesdays at 1 p.m. You'll see me, and we'll be hanging out and doing some hobbying. And then on Wednesdays, we're going to have Dallas Kemp, our creative director. He's also going to be hanging out doing some hobby, and we're going to be rotating through different things. So our schedule is going to be a little different. Just watch the social media. They'll let you know exactly what to expect and what's coming this way. Today, though, we're going to kick things off. I'm going to be doing a Firespray repaint because, of course, we're very focused on the big launch of X-Wing 2.5, which is going to be happening next month. Right after LVO, more than likely. So I'm really excited to get into that. We've all been getting our squadrons together and talking a lot about it. And so I just thought it'd be fun to do a World War II kind of fighter plane inspired repaint of a Firespray. I saw some cool like art online where they gave it some neat nose art. And I was like, hey, let's give this a try. I'm not the best at freehand, but hey, you can watch me fail on stream and we'll learn lessons together, and that's going to be great. So let's go ahead and just pop this over to the Firespray then and get things going. All right, so I've done a fair bit of like prep work on the Firespray already. I picked out my color schemes. I was kind of inspired by a P-51 Mustang colors that I saw, which had blue and some white and then silvers in there. I used the airbrush mostly to lay down my colors. Get that up just a little bit. Just so that we could get right to the fun part of today, which is going to be the freehanding of the nose art. And then ideally, we're going to work on the canopy a little bit, and then I want to finish everything off with an oil wash. If you watch the Gauntlet repaint, the last time I did an X-Wing paint, which was like 3 weeks ago now, you'll know what I'm talking about. We'll kind of go through the oil wash. That's a great way to finish any X-Wing miniature or ship. It's really fast and it works really well. So with that going on, let's go ahead and do this. You probably can't see it, but one of the things that I did is I sealed the miniature with a matte sealant, and I did that because I wanted to take a soft artist pencil, so I used a number 4 pencil, and actually kind of roughly sketched in what I want to draw with the paintbrush. And so this has kind of helped me with a guide. And the nice thing about using the soft artist pencil is it won't damage the paint underneath. And of course, if you make a mistake, you can always just erase it right off, or you can even just rub it off with your finger if it's a soft enough pencil. So it gives you a lot of control over kind of like sketching in what you think you want. And you're not really committing to anything. So because there's a lot of like bumps and weirdness going on here, it was just nice to kind of like do it. And I wound up, I think, sketching it in about 3 or 4 times before I was happy with what was there. So to start things off, I'm just going to take some of my black paint, and I'm just going to start by very carefully tracing out over my line here. And I'm just going to go slow and soft. Tony's coming in for some reason here. Oh, you're gonna brighten me up? Brighten me up then. So, and then if I make a mistake as I like work this stuff out, that's not gonna be a big deal. I can always come back and like change the black lines, but just start kind of like slow and smooth. Like this is a little bit much, so I'm probably gonna come in and I'll fix that. And I'll make that line just a little bit less, because I know now that I want less up top. And come in here, come down. I'm pretty happy with like where this line goes here. So I'll just have to fix this little bit of black right here, which I might be able to just scrub away while it's still wet. If not, I can grab more of my blue color from before and then just erase that back out. So again, just working kind of slow and smooth. Playing around with like where my lines are, what that look is that I want. And I want to get my eyeball in there. And I have my eye here, which I think I still want. So we'll kind of come up, we'll come around. Just come in like that. And a lot of it's going to be negative erasing as we go. So I'm just going to come back in. If I get it while it's still wet, because I have that secondary brush, I can always clean up my area. But that's not too bad for what we got going on. Let's see. Ice Camo Firespray. Yeah, the scheme, like I said, I just looked at a lot of different World War II kind kind of fighter plane colors. I wanted something that wasn't just straight silver or green. I wanted something a little more colorful, a little more fantastical. And so this one just really worked for me. I liked it. It was based off of a P-51 Mustang that had like a blue nose, and then it went into this silver around the canopy, and then it had white on the tail, and I thought it was kind of a neat color combination, so I figured, why not? Let's play with it a little bit. And so that's what I wound up doing. And I just kind of made it up as I went along. It looks similar in colors to Aura Singh's Firespray, actually. I think she uses, her colors are like blue and white and stuff, so maybe in the end that's what it is, but I just thought it would be fun to mess around with the flying tigers, that classic shark mouth, and see what we could come up with, and challenge myself quite a bit in terms of my freehanding ability. And why not do it live in front of everybody watching? Because, you know, it's a great way to get better at something, is just force yourself into it. And then, as I make mistakes and learn, you can benefit from those. We can kind of like go through it together. All right, and then we want the tongue. So we'll kind of like draw in where we think our tongue will be. Gonna be like right there, I think. And this is always the fun part, is like when you look at two-dimensional art, they don't have to deal with all the three-dimensional raises and stuff that happen. We do, because we're working on three-dimensional miniature art. So sometimes you've got to kind of like play with it. Won't be facing forward. Yeah, it'll be facing down, you know, because like honestly, there's no way to really do a facing forward shark face. So it is pretty interpretive going on here. All right, I'm just going to blacken. We're just going to like commit to this now. So start, and we're going to come in, and I'm just going to start filling in the space around my teeth at the top of the mouth. But yeah, that was another thing that I thought was kind of interesting. Like I said, I saw some fan art where this was done on a Firespray in this same style, where it's like it was facing down. I thought that was unique and interesting enough that it was worth just playing around with. So it might bother people, but it might look pretty cool too. So we'll find out. We'll see how that final result goes, like what's going on here. So it's true, when it's landed, it'd be perfect, right? Because they land, you know, the Firespray lands on its back, so it'll look all vicious and shark-like. But I agree, it's certainly it's not typical. We're going outside the bounds a little bit here. Hopefully it all pays off and we get something that's pretty cool. So this is just pretty rough. We'll have to go back through and kind of rebuild out our colors. Doing my best not to hit my teeth lines. But if we keep that. Oh, Tony's back again. What now, Tony? Zoom in a little bit. I'm doing my best here. I gotta stay still because I got a lot of work to do here. All right, let's grab some deep red. We'll come in, start sketching out our tongue part here. And of course, one of the easiest ways to do this is if you had some access to like some World War II fighter decals, you could just decal the side of the ship, and then you wouldn't even have to go through all of the consternation of sketching it out by hand. But, you know, why not? And because we finished this whole thing before we went in to paint it, we're going to be painting over the blue, so it is going to take a couple of coats on some of these colors and things. Want that red dry. Coming up here. But a lot of it is just going to be going kind of back and forth, cleaning up mistakes, getting that rough sketch in first, and then tightening everything up as you go. So you shouldn't expect to get it all in one straight shot. It's the process of fixing one's mistakes well and truly, like we talked about before. Okay. So I got the red kind of like laid in there. We'll go in and I'm going to grab some Mojave white. I'm going to use this for my base teeth color, my tooth color. My big thing here is I just want to try to get everything blocked out before I start going crazy and messing with stuff. So do our best to stay within our lines here. And this is really where that subtractive process is going to be in, because I'm probably not going to make the best teeth. But because black will cover white really nicely, it's going to be pretty simple to go back and just straighten up any of the teeth that don't quite look right. So it's all about your bravery test. Just give yourself that opportunity. This is kind of thick. I kind of want to thin it out a little bit. To just go around and mess around. And again, this process will probably take a while. You know, it's not going to be done in one fast go. It's definitely not something I would suggest doing on, 20 ships. But maybe your centerpiece Firespray or your favorite starfighter might deserve a little extra look. One of the big other things that I'm trying to do is keeping my paint strokes pretty thin and smooth. I don't want to like glob on the paint. That's coming in too thick, so I'm just going to erase that tooth and start again. So I'm just going to scrub that away really quick, because I can do that. I'll just come back in and redraw that tooth. Again, a lot of this is just like sketching, so if you happen to be one of those wonderful people who can do 2D art and you can draw sketches and stuff really well, I wish I was as talented. I'm a terrible 2D drawer. It's the same idea. We're just going to come in and start doing rough sketches, and then we can go back through and refine and refine and refine until we have something that's looking really good. And the nice thing is, because we're going to use that oil wash, I also don't have to worry necessarily about highlighting and shading and all of that stuff, because the oil wash is going to take care of that for me. So my goal here is really just to make sure that I'm getting a really nice, solid, flat look. And again, that's going to take a few coats. Might have to mess around with some different colors and stuff, but one second. Oh no, I gotta put this down. This one's got a clog. Let's see if I can get it out. There we go. Okay, back to it. Just make sure I get right back to my spot. A single googly eye. Well, I can't make the eye googly, but we could paint it as a single eye. Tony and I talked a lot about the canopy, actually, and like what color it should be. We kind of settled on maybe doing like a black green. We're gonna give that a try and just see what happens. But you could definitely paint it like one giant eye. That'd be kind of neat, actually. See, and then we get into things like, here's this like weird panel where a tooth really wants to go, but it's all three-dimensional, so that's fun. So we just do our best. Kind of figure it out. And we'll come back over here and knock it back in. Now I'm just going to start going back over that white and just strengthen it out with 2 coats. And again, not worrying a ton if I make any kind of like overspills or mistakes, because I can always go back in and sketch that out with the black. So we're just kind of like defining the form and the shape here. Let's keep going. Let's see. Just a very long question about the 2.5 rules releases and all that stuff. So we're still aiming for early February for the release of the rules packet. It will come with a points update. The points for all the ships from both standard and extended will be included. So if you've missed the discussion, standard is going to be kind of the new de facto competitive regular event format. Standard includes everything that's been released in 2.0 or re-released. So anything from 1.0 that hasn't had a 2.0 release will not be included in standard. It will be usable and extended. But we are going to have the points adjustment for all of those ships. So everything will be playable right away. And then as far as, I think the second part of that question was like a card pack or a errata card pack, that is definitely something that we want to release, but that'll be a bit further off because of production timelines and stuff. But we definitely have intentions to make sure that errata cards are available outside of just a print and play option. I don't really have a timeline on exactly when that'll be though, but it is definitely one of the goals that we have as we move forward with this stuff. So hopefully that answers everything that was in that big long post. If I missed something, you can feel free to ask again, and when my eyes are not glued to these little teeth, I will do my best to answer. So when it comes to like the Resistance Falcon, as long as the miniature of the ship exists, so for example, Falcons are a great one to talk about. The Resistance Falcon and the Rebellion Falcon and all those things are interchangeable. So there's a bunch of guidance and rules, specific language in the organized play docs that has been released that kind of explains how that works. But yes, if you have a Z95 Headhunter from the Scum, you can use it for a Rebellion Z95 if you want. It's the same thing with the Falcons and stuff. Okay, so those teeth are coming into view pretty nice. We're getting our form and shape going on here. I'm going to come into this eyeball and just start hitting that with the white. Then our next step here is going to be coming in, and is our team going to be dedicating time to Epic Play? We will be dedicating time to Epic Play. That is part of the longer term rollout. So obviously the first big goal we set for ourselves was knocking out the core rules, doing the points adjustments. Epic, unfortunately, will be a little bit in limbo because obviously we want to give ourselves dedicated time, and we really want to dive in and create an Epic experience that meets the hopes and expectations of everyone who loves it currently, and also to kind of breathe some new life into Epic that will hopefully attract even more players to want to experience those super cool, huge battles in space with all of the neat Epic ships that go along with them and all of that stuff. So we are going to be dedicating a decent chunk of time next as we move forward into defining epic play and bringing some much needed, I think, new life and hopefully some solid clarification and scenarios and all that stuff to that experience as well. So it is absolutely not forgotten. It is on our list of things to tackle, but we kind of have to knock things down in a little bit of an order. So there will be a little bit of limbo, unfortunately. All right, well, I'm feeling pretty good about this so far. We got some cleanup to do, but it feels very sharkish. It's very stylized. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my black. Back in black. I can't do that. I'll get in trouble. I could already see Tony was getting ready to cut the feed. He's like, don't do it. We didn't pay for that. And now I'm just going to use my black. And I'm going to start really redefining some of those lines. Get everything going. So, the new rules have not been posted for X-Wing yet. If you want to take a look at what to expect from the new rules, though, we did preview pretty much everything, including one of the new scenarios that will be used for competitive and standard play. Right before we took break for Christmas, so Plumber and I sat down and rocked out a game using all of the new stuff. So if you do have any kind of interest, you can go back and watch that. We go through just about everything in detail, and I know if you were with us on the stream or you're able to watch it, I don't know if you can still watch it on Twitch with the comments, but Will Pagani, our development manager, was in the comment sections like a true ninja, answering pretty much every question about clarification and making sure that anybody who had questions about what we're talking about or came in late was able to hear it and get it all locked in and taken care of. So definitely worth checking out if you want to get a little preview of it. But the full rules document, along with the points adjustment and everything else, is still currently expected to drop in early February. So, clean up that eyeball. Ooh, that's pivot wing config for Lambda and Upsilon. Who knows? Take this tooth down just a little bit. There we go. And so this is kind of the subtractive process. Now I'm looking at my teeth going, well, maybe that one's a little too long. Maybe this one isn't quite sharp enough. So let's come in and start getting those out. Get really quiet now because outlining the bottom teeth, which are against the tongue, is a little different than the easier ones on the top of the mouth. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, nailed it. Yeah, look at that. There we go. All right, pretty happy with that. We got to give him an eyeball. Boop. Oh, the wobble. Yeah. Shark teeth are uneven, and that's also what's great about shark teeth. I don't have to be perfect. If they're chipped or dent or anything like that, it just adds character. So let nature really take it away here. Plus, let's be honest, this bounty hunter, whoever's flying this Firespray, did not pay to get this professionally done. They probably did it themselves, or their cousin, who's like an artist, quote unquote, convinced them to let them do it. They're like, come on, man. You got to be feared. step in there. People are laughing at you right now. They're not scared of you. He's like, fine. So then he painted this gorgeous, semi-professional shark mouth. And the second the ship took off, he was like, wait, it's not going the right way. I was like, oh, want. Sorry, bud. Here we are. Okay, I'm going to go back to my red. I'll just start to fill out this tongue just a bit more. Pump up that color. And again, I'm just looking to get a really nice solid base coat down for this because the oil wash that will slap over everything will take care of a lot of the shading and a little bit of the highlighting and stuff. So as long as we're clean and clear on this, we'll be pretty good. All right, there we go. First side done. Now we just have to do the other side. Whew. And of course, we'll come back through and we'll fix this little line that we didn't like, but now we go over to here. And this time we do it in reverse. So this will get even weirder. Now, you could do it upside down so that the natural, like when you're right-handed, it's easier to come toward yourself than away from yourself. But I'm just going to try it this way, so. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to kind of like look at the top here, think about where my eyeball is supposed to be. And this isn't probably going to be perfectly symmetrical, but that's okay. I'm not trying to be perfect or identical. If I wanted that, I would definitely have used a decal. This is going to be, you know, the best to my abilities to kind of match and have it look pretty good. So think about, just flip back over. So we go up, and go around. And of course, to make this an added challenge, I could make it a winky eye. It's just a closed eye. It's fine. To make this an added challenge, the Firespray isn't symmetrical in terms of all its paneling and stuff, so it's a little different. So we're going to follow our pencil line as best we can here. But this side of the mouth may wind up being a bit different because we're not going over the same stuff, but we'll certainly try to end it close to where we're supposed to be. I think we're pretty close. Okay, then we'll start working in our teeth, which are the parts that we don't have to worry about being identical. All right, so we kind of have those teeth knocked in. That's right, Dallas. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be close enough. And then we're going to do our tongue. Something like that. We'll come back in and we'll start knocking out this black. You know, and again, you're never going to get better at something if you don't just try it. So we had a nice little conversation this morning during one of our actual work meetings where Dallas was reminding people that, you know, you're always going to fail at things, but that's okay because failure is in itself a success since you get better at it. If I refuse to do some fun shark-faced cartoony freehanding on my Firespray until I knew I could do it perfectly, I would never do it because I'd never get to that point. But by just letting myself do this and give it a shot, At worst, I decide that, it just really doesn't work. And then I go back through and I reprime it with a light coat and I start again. Or, I just come up with a reason as to why this ship has kind of a goofy, imperfect shark mouth. Like I said, it's probably because his obnoxious cousin, who was an artist, needed work. And he connived his way one way or the other into being able to do it. So we're just going to continue to sketch out our teeth. Like right here we have a panel that's literally over where I want to put a tooth, so I'm going to do my best. And just not worry about it. We're just going to keep going. And just keep going. Toothy by toothy by toothy. Maybe we'll throw in an extra tooth at the end there, just for funsies. Perfect teeth is just like nuts. So, no one has perfect teeth, that's true. You spend lots and lots of money on orthodontistry, you still always have like some weird teeth action going on. So we're just going to keep going here. And we're going to finish this out, and then we'll probably go, depending on how much time left, we might just go straight to our oil wash, and I'll figure out everything else that I'm missing later. But we'll just play it by ear. We're in no particular rush. It's just some fun, easy, freehand practice. Whoop. We'll have to come back and clean that up. My paint's getting a little sticky. I need to add a little bit more water to it. Not coming off quite as smooth as I want. Just clean that out. Add a little bit more water to our paint, just to make sure that it's flowing well. I don't want it to be like a wash, but I do want it to come off the brush really nice. So again, I'm not afraid of doing a few coats of this. So that's another big kind of tip for making this process a little bit smoother and easier on yourself. Make sure that your paints flow really well. You want them to almost like you could write with them. You almost want them to kind of an inconsistency. They should come off really smooth. And they probably won't be super opaque. They'll be pretty translucent, but that allows you the opportunity to fix things, to go back. And you just do a couple of extra coats. And again, it's a lot like pencil sketching. But I have to be able to see the teeth, Tony.
You can turn it towards you a little better.
All right, here. How about that?
Yeah, better. Thanks.
They don't want to see the back of my head?
Just makes it hard to see your paint job.
I mean, that might be the trick, though. I'm just like, look at this. This was amazing. Don't you all agree? I'm glad you agree. Nobody needed to see it. I'm going to add a little toother back here. Just a little toother back there. Just because. I want one back here. Okay. So we got our teeth in. They're going to need an extra, run of white, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to do my red really quick. Yeah, you want to add a little bit of water. I am using this because I don't have my wet palette with me. If I had a wet palette, I probably wouldn't have to worry quite as much about watching how much water is in the paint. But if you're using a well palette, And really if you're using a wet palette too, you always want to add a little bit of water to your paint to help it flow. So 9 times out of 10 when you pull paint out of a pot or out of a bottle or anything like that, it's not going to have the consistency that you want to have it be a smooth painting experience. So it is important to add a little bit of moisture. And again, if I was using my wet palette, which I didn't bring with me today, instead of the well palette, the wet palette already adds moisture to it, so it can just kind of sub in for adding a little bit of extra moisture. But it's always a good idea to test every paint that you're using to see how it's flowing off the brush, that you're getting that kind of perfect mix of capillary action and flow and control and all of that good stuff. There we go. That would be good if I was just like, woo, oh, look at it, it's beautiful, and it was just done. These are the thoughts that I should have beforehand. I really should turn it into like a cooking show. Dallas and I have talked about that a few times, how if only we could just cooking show it up and like be like, this one's ready for the oven, and then pull out the finished one. I did this earlier, and then you don't have to show anything. This is the part that always bothered me about cooking shows. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to watch the cake bake, but I also don't really know if I believe that the batter you just made the cake that you showed me, because they're not the same. They're not the same. There's no camera tricks on this. You're literally just watching it real time. That's why we've often talked about calling this segment watching paint dry. Because sometimes that's definitely what we're doing here. But it's all part of the actual process. So, little 2/3. All right, I think our teeth are pretty well knocked out. Let's go back through and clean them up with, oh no, little mess. So I'm just gonna, because I made a bit of a mistake, I'm just gonna kind of like wipe that out. Then I'll come back in, re-hit back up my red. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Come over here where I can see that black is kind of showing through. Yeah, there's a fine balance of thinning versus like leaving them alone. You don't, a lot of folks always use it should be like skim milk. I've never really believed in the skim milk analogy. I think that is way too thin. But if it works for you, then, don't listen to me, stick with it. I just like to add like the smallest, like get the brush just a little damp, mix it in the paint. You should see the paint release nicely, and then you're good to go. So you just want that paint to be able to flow off the brush really nice. And it doesn't take a whole lot to get to that point. The top of this mouth just blacked out a little bit more. I need to come through and define the bottom of the mouth a little better. Come through and define these teethers. Go. And then again, a little too thick right here, so we'll just blend a little bit of that out. Blend a little bit of that out. And this can become the point where, at this point, if you want to get really perfectionist, you're just going to start going back and forth and kind of building out your shapes until you're really happy with them. It's like I got a little too narrow on that tooth than what I wanted, so just come in and do that. It's very easy to thin paint. It is much harder to thick paint. That is true. Dallas Kemp speaks the truth, as he so often does. Okay, and then I'm just going to come in here. Just want to add a little bit more definition to these teeth up top. Let's make sure those edges are nice and clean. Again, not looking for perfection, but looking for what makes us happy here. We'll just kind of come back through and even out that mouth like that. Then we'll look over at this side and we'll be like, oh, look, our first one was so much nicer. This one's a little more snaggly. That's okay though. He's got a sideways smirk, you see. That's why this side's a little less pretty. Block in his eye. Block in that eye. Come over here. That. I'm going to grab a little bit of Mayhem Red. I just want to pump up the red on the tongue. So I'm just going to brighten that up just a little bit because that oil wash is going to bring it down. Go. Over here to this one. Knock that in like that. We'll come back over. We got to give this eye its little pupil. Come in. We'll give him round eyes. We could have given him like angry viper eyes with the slits, but the round pupil is what I saw more often. There we go. So there's that done. Which time we left? 44 minutes. Let's go to the oil wash. Let's just do that. Whoop. Okay. So I'm going to do an oil wash, which means I'm going to get rid of my fancy watercolor brushes. I'm going to pull out my not so fancy oil wash brushes. And kind of show you what I've got going on here. So here's where my oil paint is. I'm going to grab some of this white spirit and put some of that out. And then I'm just going to start thinning out that oil until we have a nice washy consistency. So I'm kind of going to go back and forth between the two, and then this will be my strong one and this will be my weak one. And you're really looking for something that's nice and broken up and runs really well. Some good capillary action, so this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I don't want anything super dark, but you can play with, that was totally not on camera. It's cool. Thanks, Tony. Let's see, is that on? That must be on. I can't see it. So here you go. So here's where the paint started. Here's where the paint went with the white spirit. So you can kind of see like how's it's going on. Depending on how this goes on, I might add a little bit more white spirit or mineral spirit, depending on where you are in the world. Because it's the same thing, but it has a different name. And then we're just going to start slopping this on. So we'll start here on the back, because the back is less important to me and we can see how it runs. So you can see how it just runs all into those cracks and crevices real nice. I almost don't even have to paint it on. I can just kind of touch. And this is what makes pin washes and all that stuff with oil washing so nice if you're doing detail work and you don't want to slop it on everything. But as we talked about on the Gauntlet Starfighter stream, once this starts to dry, you can very easily go back and kind of erase some of it. You can clean off where you don't want it. You can go over the whole area and it will only stay in the deepest crevices. Like on the back here, I'm probably just going to leave it as is because I want this to be pretty dark because it's the steel. Then come over here. We'll start hitting that. You can see how it runs right into those nice deep veins, like almost just at a touch. The capillary action on oil washes is just so much nicer than an acrylic wash. So it can be really useful for doing shading and stuff. And of course, the other benefit is that if you get it anywhere you don't want it, you can just take a Q-tip or a makeup brush or anything like that with a little bit of white spirit, and you can just erase it right off. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go over the whole thing with our wash here. And then once it dries, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to start cleaning it back up. So we may not get to the cleanup part at this point because usually you want it to let it dry for about 20 minutes before you go in and start like really erasing. But we'll see where we get to. So again, just kind of going in. We're just going to go over everything. We really want this to pool into those deep panel lines and cracks and all of that good stuff. But we're just going to kind of make it a mess. And after it's dry, if I want to come back and like mess with the canopy, which I probably will, I can do that. I just have to wait for the oils to dry, which will take a couple of days because they're pretty thinned out. And then I'll seal it, and then I can go back in and I can paint more over the top of the oils or anything that I want. No problemo at all. So again, I'm not too worried about being like super clean. I'm not worried about pooling too much. I do want it to be really even to a certain extent, but like anywhere where I get really big glops of pools that I miss, I'm going to be able to pull those right off after it dries a little bit and I come back through and get it all going on. So this is a great way to add grime and grit to everything. As far as like brand of oil paints, you just want like medium level oil paints. So the one that I have here is Master's Touch, which works great for what I'm doing with it. If you're actually going to paint with oils, you know, you can go a little bit nicer. There's obviously like there's so many different brands. There's Winsor Newton ones. There's Artist Series. There's the Master's Touch, which is a fine art studio one. Like I haven't really run into anything where I've been like, this totally doesn't work, but it also depends on what your use is, right? For oil washing and stuff, the Master's Touch stuff, which you can get at pretty much any hobby store, it seems like is perfectly fine. Also, if you grab, like when they have sales and stuff, like one tube of black artist oil is probably going to last you the rest of your life for how little you actually use. So, you know, just go with whatever makes sense for you. But like many things, if you're just using it for washing, you don't need the highest end imaginable. So grab something that's like right in the middle. So we can see it's now nice and dark, very shiny. Already have some nice life here going on. So the big thing here is we would just wait a little bit longer for it to dry, but we don't have much time. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start cleaning it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a clean Q-tip with no mineral spirits on it. And I'm just going to start kind of gently running it over the surface of the ship. And anywhere where I want less of the oil wash. But you can see how I'm just like picking it all up on the Q-tip. And again, we're doing this a little quicker than we should. Normally you want to let your oil wash dry for about 20 minutes before you really start going in and cleaning up. But I'm not too worried about this right now. I just kind of want to show the technique. And then I'll get it all finished up, and I'm sure this guy will appear on a stream sometime in the future because I like flying fire sprays. They're fun. And you can honestly let your oil wash sit for upwards of a couple hours if you need to. And if you're really brave, you could go a little longer, but I wouldn't recommend it. You kind of want to tackle it in that 20 minutes to 2 hours range usually for the best and easiest results. And then after you do this initial cleanup, you can go back through with some white spirits on your cleaning brush and then just start to pull even more of it off until you are happy with the results. So, from here, go back in and you can see what a dry Q-tip did. If I take a Q-tip that has mineral spirits on it, you can see how much more of that gets pulled off. So like this I can use for places that I really want to be a lot cleaner, like especially on my gray or white areas. I don't want as much of that oil wash on, so I can come back through and start pulling more of that color off, and maybe I leave more of it on the silvers and everything like that. But it will still obviously leave some oil wash in the cracks and the crevices, which will lend it a nice, really good looking depth. Some good shadows, some good highlights, all of that stuff. So it takes a lot of cleaning to get it all off, but even if you get most of it off, you still wind up having the oil wash do its job. And where you want more of it there, you just kind of like leave it and you're good to go. If you want less of it, all that stuff. So there's a lot of control in terms of how you erase the oil wash, and you can always go back and add more oil wash if you want. If you feel like you went too far, just repeat the process. And because it's very subtractive, it's really easy to have a lot of control over the final results, and it's very forgiving in terms of, you know, if you used a little too much wash, you just got to do a little more cleaning. If you used not enough wash, you know, give it a little time, put more on, and then come back through and start working on it. You can see how it just lends this really nice kind of colors and everything going on. It's great for panel lining. If you want to use it just for panel lining, like let's say you don't want to use it as a wash for the whole thing, you just want to go in and touch these different panel lines and watch as it runs through. You should spray it with a gloss or a semi-gloss varnish first, because the semi-gloss and gloss, I've learned, allow the capillary action of the oil wash to actually work their best. So if you do it over like a matte finished miniature or no finished miniature, it won't run as well. You get the most control and the most like capillary action if it's over a gloss varnish. So that is something that you should consider as you're approaching these different techniques in terms of what you want. If you're just doing what I'm doing though and using it as like a full finishing wash, any kind of matte or gloss or none at all, like you can already see it's not really affecting anything on the acrylic face that we painted, because white spirits and acrylic don't react with each other. You know, that's why you don't use them for anything. So you're pretty safe. Acrylic is much tougher than a lot of people give it credit for, so you don't have to worry about it as much. All right, and with that, looks like we are pretty much at time, so I'll continue to kind of clean this up. I'll probably go through it with another wash just to deepen up all these areas and then actually give it the appropriate amount of time to dry. But hopefully, You had some fun. Maybe you're inspired to try some freehand of your own after seeing my attempt at it. I had a blast working on it, hanging out with y'all. So with that said, you can come back tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be Dallas Kemp. He's going to be painting up some Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, I believe. And then I'll be back next Tuesday for more hobby action. We'll be continuing like that for the foreseeable future. Be sure to watch the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all the latest and greatest information. And we got plenty more cool stuff coming your way. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.